Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I am your not so humble storyteller, Kaylin, and today we're going to be talking about the many adaptations of William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is she making this video? I'll tell you. First of all, it's for a class project. Shout out to my professor and also my other classmates who might be watching this.
Hey there, you hey there, how are you doing?
And secondly, because I've always wanted to make a YouTube essay of sorts, and this was the perfect opportunity to force myself to do that. So here we are.
What's up, YouTube?
So here's a little overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully editing Kaylin has put in some kind of timeline for you to look at.
Well, yes.
The first thing we're going to be talking about is the history of the video essay itself, why I chose to do an essay in this format, why it matters, how it applies to Shakespeare. The second thing we're going to be talking about is the play itself. We're going to talk about Much Ado. We're going to talk about what makes a Much Ado adaptation much ado-ian. Then we're going to get into our first adaptation, Kenneth Branagh's 1993 version of Much Ado About Nothing, my personal favorite.
This is your favorite song? It is.
Then we're going to jump into the David Tennant, Catherine Tate version of Much Ado.
One and only, Miss Catherine Tate.
Then we're going to slide on over to the Gossip Girl of it all, and we're going to talk about how season 2 of Gossip Girl basically just stole the plot of Much Ado.
Oh, she's stealing? Oh, come and get her, y'all.
And finally, we will wrap it up
The wickedly talented.
with the new-ish rom-com Anyone But You that stars Colin Firth, yes, and Sydney Sweeney. Also, before we begin, I do have to mention that I will be taking many a sip from this chocolate chai that's sitting right here. I encourage you to get a drink of some sort because this video is going to be long. Buckle in. Okay, let's talk about the history of the video essay and why I chose to do it. Video essays are a relatively new genre that's popped up on the internet. In the new era of streaming services, people were able to access seasons and seasons of their favorite shows at one time, which then led to them recommending seasons and seasons of their favorite show to the people that they knew and cared about and now wanted to evangelize this favorite show to them. However, that meant they had to catch up on 4, 5, 6 seasons in a very short amount of time. It also meant that people who wanted to watch new seasons of their favorite show had the ability to watch previous seasons all at one time before a new season came out. But we all know how that kind of went down. Now streaming services are waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years between seasons, and so people forget what happens in season 1 by the time season 2 comes out, or what happens in seasons 1 through 4 by the time season 5 comes out. I'm looking at you, Stranger Things.
Your mom.
And this became a problem for a lot of TV shows where people wanted a way to remember the content that had happened in the past seasons without watching literally every episode in those prior seasons. Video essays made it possible for people to get the rundown on seasons of TV in smaller amounts of time, making the content more accessible for people who didn't have the time or the means to watch the shows they had previously missed out on. And this is why I felt that that format would lend itself to Shakespeare, because Shakespeare can feel intimidating, and online resources really helped me and have helped me in the past to get into Shakespeare in a way that I can understand without having to get through the whole canon before I finally was able to lock in and understand what was happening. I also specifically have to shout out Mike's Mike for getting me into this kind of content in the first place. I have been going down his pipeline for quite some time, and as much as I would love for him to do a Shakespeare video one day, I think that would only happen, one, if he reviewed Zombies or Romeo and Juliet, but also I don't think even if he does do it, it'll happen anytime soon, so I'm impatient. Here we are. I'm doing it myself. However, I really hope that he does a Shakespeare video someday. I'm begging you. I'm literally begging. Now that we've talked about why we're doing a video essay in the first place, let's get into the play itself, which is going to be really, really crucial for understanding what's even going on in the adaptations, what they're changing, why it matters, what makes something much ado-ian. We have to know what's happening in the actual play itself first. Also, if you see me looking at the corner of my eye, that is because I have my little iPad here to help keep me on track. Our silly little rom-com of a play starts at the end of a successful war / battle / skirmish. everyone is kind of sitting around, lollygagging, waiting to hear back about the results of said battle. This opening scene of waiting to hear back about a battle that has just happened that we didn't previously see is juxtaposed by other William Shakespeare plays like Macbeth that also starts at the end of a successful battle, but the vibe is way more hostile in Macbeth than it is in Much Ado About Nothing.
Your daddy was home when you left. Your mama was home when you left. Your sister was home when you left. Your brother was home when you left. The dog was home when you left.
This is supposed to tell us that we're in for a comedy and not a tragedy. After they hear that the battle was successful, that no one important died, and that everyone is about to come home, Beatrice then uses this time to talk about how much she does not mess with Benedict to the crowd that's there while he is not there. First of all, we have to get into who those people are.
Black, bisexual, angry, sad, strong, sensitive, scared, fierce, talented, exhausted.
Beatrice is going to be our main baddie of the play.
I wonder that you will still be talking, Signor Benedict. Nobody marks you.
Okay, she is our main protagonist. Benedict is her biggest op.
What, my dear Lady Disdain? Are you yet living?
Yeah, they have beef. Everyone else around them knows what the beef is, except for the messenger who probably just wants to go to bed at the end of his long day of battle.
My bad. My bad.
But Beatrice simply won't let him do this and won't let this happen, and she continues to air Benedict out in front of everyone. We eventually cut to a scene where the boys have come back from war and they're all entering the villa.
This week, a hot new bombshell enters the villa.
They're all entering the city. The boys in question are Don Pedro, Benedict, Claudio, and Don John the Bastard. Don Pedro is the prince of said area. Benedict is Beatrice's biggest op. Claudio is kind of like the young new soldier in town. And also we have Don John the Bastard. We'll get into him later, but his name is Don John. He's the bastard
Orphan, son of a harlot.
brother of Don Pedro the Prince. In this scene where they're back in this city, Benedict and Beatrice immediately start beefing with each other in front of everyone.
You did this to me. You told Coach Sylvester about my summer surgery.
You have a surgery when you get your appendix out. You got a boob job.
Yep, sure did.
I'm on Beatrice's side in this situation because it starts off with her minding her own business and kind of just everyone yapping at each other about the battle and how excited they are to see each other, until out of nowhere,
I hear this agitated, grating voice.
Benedict starts dissing Beatrice and her family in front of everyone without her even saying a word. So she pops back and asks him who the cuss asked, and the Gagatron fest of the century commences.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, release him.
I have to pause here to mention that scratching in this scene is a double entendre.
Double entendre in the most beautiful sense of the word, if you want to take it from there. And I'd love to take it from there. It's a double entendre, but yet it's still paradoxical.
Shakespeare likes to do stuff like this a lot. The title of the play itself, Much Ado About Nothing, is a reference to getting freaky, okay? Ado has a similar vibe to the way that we use the word affair in modern day. You can have a business affair, or like something is an affair of an event, but it can also mean getting down and dirty, getting freaky. So when Beatrice is saying that scratching wouldn't make it worse because his face is so ugly, of course, one, she's saying that his face is so ugly that getting all scratched up wouldn't make a difference. He's ugly either way. But she's also saying scratching as a verb to allude to a kind of self-pleasure. And she's saying that a woman could only get off with Benedict if she was putting in the work herself. Yeah, that kind of ate. You're walking with me now. That kind of ate. Okay, anyway. Benedict can kind of sense that he's losing the gag battle of the century after that. And he's also losing in front of quite literally everyone he knows. So he says, oh, I'm tired. I'm done. I quit.
His fault.
Just vote. Just vote.
Just read. I know I'm gonna be out, so just vote.
And leaves the scene of the crime. In our next scene that we cut to, Benedict, Claudio, and the prince from earlier are now talking about what just went down. And Claudio is not focused at all on what Benedict is saying because he is so absolutely whipped for Hero. Now, here's a little introduction to Hero. She is Beatrice's cousin, little cousin, okay? So we have Beatrice, her little cousin, is in love with Benedict's essentially like pseudo baby brother, not actually baby brother, but like, you know when you're so bro that like that's basically like bro for real. That's kind of what's happening here.
Roydale and Alberstein's grandmother and my grandmother, okay, they were sisters. So that make me and Roydale and Alberstein, okay, that's going for a second. Got same grandmother.
So it's not looking great for them. Benedict goes on a little incel rant because of this that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but it's loser behavior. Once Benedict is done with his little incel rant, Don Pedro comes up with a plan with Claudio about how they're going to get him and Hero together. Claudio says, oh my god, I'm so scared. I don't want to ask her and her dad to marry her. Don Pedro says, hey, that's fine. I'll pretend to be you and I'll just ask her and her dad for you. And then that way you don't have to be embarrassed at all.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Very good, although not smart, but very kind bro behavior. Now, while we all know this plan isn't smart, we do need to keep in mind that while they're hatching this plan, Claudio loves this. He's like, this is the best idea someone has ever had.
Spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
Let's absolutely do that. Keep that in mind for the shenanigans that are about to happen ahead, okay? While they're hatching this plan, Antonio, who's kind of just like this side character, he's friends with Leonardo, who we'll get into in a second, he's overhearing all of this, and he makes this huge scene, and he goes to tell Hero's dad, Leonardo, who I just mentioned, and he's like, oh my god, I just heard the good news. The prince is gonna ask Hero to marry him, because he was only half listening, and he doesn't mention that Hero is being asked by the prince to get married, yes, but for Claudio.
I didn't hear that.
So Leonardo is like, oh my god, my daughter's about to be a princess. This rocks. However, Hero's not excited about this because she also has feelings for Claudio. And now she's going to have to marry the prince. This is very much, now that I'm thinking about it right now, this is very much giving Bridgerton. This is very much giving Bridgerton now that I'm thinking about it. But we don't have time to get into that, and I didn't include this in my actual thing, so we have to circle back a little bit. But basically, Hero devastated that Claudio is not the one asking her, and that her dad expects her to say yes to the prince. After those shenanigans, we get to cut to my favorite scene in the play, and this is Don John the Bastard's monologue. Don John has creeped off to a creepy little room by himself after everyone has kind of left the courtyard after the Gagatron 3000 that was Benedict and Beatrice going after each other. And he's going off on this monologue about how he's sad, he's emo, he's a bastard, of course.
She's a mammoth, of course. And
he is absolutely, although not textually, confirmed gay. And he's ready to mess everything up for everyone for no reason at all. Shakespeare loves to make a bastard son evil for no good reason. We have Edmund and King Lear. We also have Philip and King John. However, he's not evil, he's just a little freak. But even in their best moments, Shakespeare can only write bastards as little rascals. So I just think that's important to mention for your Shakespearean context. After we get a little bit of the spiel from Don John the Bastard, Horatio, who is his essentially little henchman guy, comes running in, and he actually had his listening ears on because he overheard somehow about the shenanigans to get Hero proposed to somebody, except when he was overhearing the original three boys talk about it, he was like, oh, the prince is not actually proposing to Hero. He's proposing to Hero for Claudio. So he doesn't mishear anything at all, and he tells the most evil man in all of the city about the plan to get Hero proposed to by Claudio. It's not looking good for them. Don John famously hates to see anyone happy, so he immediately starts hatching a plan to mess things up as much as possible at the ball that's supposed to happen later on that night, which is where they plan on proposing to Hero. Next, we cut to the masquerade ball scene. We just so happen to walk in on everyone talking about how much they think that Don John the Bastard is a little freak, and Beatrice is like, oh my god, since we're taking time to talk about men that we don't like, how about Benedict? He pisses her off something fierce, and he don't even got to be in the room. Beatrice is like, oh my god, Don John is such a little freak for like brooding and going on incel rants. You know who else goes on incel rants? Benedict. Oh my gosh, Don John is so weird because he only hangs out with like 2 other dudes. You know who else only hangs out with 2 other dudes consistently? Benedict. Boom, 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 boom. She is going after him. No one cares. No one cares. Matter of fact, because of this, Leonardo, who is Beatrice's uncle, because her and Hero are cousins, so Hero's dad would be her uncle, he reminds Hero, his daughter, to not be anything like Beatrice, which doesn't seem to be a foreseeable issue because Hero seems down bad for Claudio and is still holding out hope that he might propose to her before the prince allegedly is going to later that night. Once they enter the masquerade ball, everything starts to go down. Beatrice, of course, immediately finds Benedict and starts beefing with him, except he's in costume because it's a masquerade. So he thinks that she doesn't think that it's him. So she starts talking mad trash about this guy named Benedict. And Benedict is like, oh my god, but that guy's probably really cool and like really loyal and stuff. And she's like, no, like the prince beats him, but then he feels bad for like beating him because like it's kind of like beating like a court jester. It's only fun for a little bit. And he gets so mad that he has to storm off. While this is happening, Don John the Bastard tells Claudio that Don Pedro apparently lied and actually intends on proposing to Hero himself to steal her from him. Despite this being a deeply inappropriate age gap, Benedict overhears the shenanigans that Don John the Bastard is trying to pull and immediately tells his bestie Don Pedro / the prince that Don John is trying to start things again. So Don Pedro goes to make things right with Claudio, and after some confrontation, that seems to be going okay. Seeing that everything turned out okay, Benedict tries to GTF out of there, but Don Pedro / the prince is like, no, stay. And Benedict is like, please, you can send me anywhere. I do not want to see Beatrice. She pissed me off bad. And Don Pedro's like, well, I'm the prince, and this is funny, so I'm going to stay. And he's legally required to stay. But Benedict still finds a way out of it, and we're just left with Beatrice and company at the end of the masquerade ball. Because of the successful wooing, after all of the drama, Hero and Claudio are now betrothed and soon to be married. Don Pedro, who has just done all of the wooing and no longer has anyone to talk to now that Benedict has stormed off, tries to get in with Beatrice. He actually tries to make a pass at her and is like, oh my god, I wish that you had a sister or someone who looked just like you and acted just like you and talked and dressed just like you, who was just like you for real.
I wish I had a free bag of chips. What? I wish I had a free bag of chips.
A free bag of chips.
And Beatrice is like, yeah. If you're trying to propose to me, I don't want it. And he's like, what? I wasn't even saying all of that. Propose to you? What? And she's like, yeah. And she's kind of a little tipsy off the lean. So she's like, let me tell you something right now.
My ideal man doesn't play the drums, doesn't stay late at the bar, does what he says and says what he does not get a fancy lawyer that the other person can't afford if things get weird.
Me and Benedict, we kind of go way back. And finally admits that her and Benedict only have beef because they used to like each other and something has gone wrong. This all happens off screen, so we don't really know what has gone wrong, but she finally admits that they do have a past. This leads to Don Pedro hatching a plan with all of the other good guys once Beatrice leaves this scene that they should get Benedict and Beatrice back together by the time Hero and Claudio are married, just for the funsies, I guess. Again, we're supposed to be conjuring scenes from like Romeo and Juliet's masquerade ball that has a way different tone than this one. Once again, because that one is a tragedy, this one is a comedy. Romeo and Juliet are not supposed to be together and everyone is trying to keep them apart during their masquerade ball scene. Benedict and Beatrice are supposed to be together at the end of this, and everyone is trying to make that happen. After the masquerade ball, we have a scene where Don John is by himself, and he's really embarrassed that his first plan to sabotage Hero and company didn't work. So he moves on to the natural step, plan B, framing Hero as a shameless hussy so no one will want to marry her. Horatio, who's been getting down and dirty with Margaret, volunteers to do some role play with her the night before Hero's wedding in like this big window area they have inside of her bedroom, and make it seem like he, Horatio, is bumping uglies with Hero and not Margaret. So he's basically saying, I'm going to have Margaret to pretend to be Hero, so I'm going to call her Hero while we're doing the nasty.
You're nasty.
And then anyone who might overhear or walk by and look up will see me doing the nasty with Hero, framing her. Horatio is a freak, so it seems like this is something he would do for free, but Don John is like, hey, don't worry, it feels weirder if I don't pay you. So he promises to basically Venmo them once their plan is done. Next, we cut to the garden the next day. And Benedict is once again going on an incel monologue, this time just to himself. The boys / Leonardo, which is again Hero's dad, the prince, and Claudio are like, this is the perfect time to hatch our plan. And they begin to talk about how much Beatrice loves Benedict, but is just too afraid to say it as loud as possible in a place where it's very obvious that they want him to hear this, but they want him to think that they're saying it because they think that he can't hear them. Are you walking with me? Okay. This, of course, works with little effort, and Benedict is like, you know what? Forget all of the incel stuff I just said. I think, actually, I just hated the idea of getting married because I thought that I was gonna die in, like, a battle or a war before I was old enough to get married. Which, again, he's fully, like, in his 30s, so it's a comedy. As the audience, we know that this is not true. He's being silly. They also send Beatrice out to get him for dinner right after pulling all of these shenanigans, and he's become so whipped for her in the last 30 seconds after years of hating her after whatever has happened that he thanks her for her pains, which is another double entendre, and she could not give less of a gaff at this point. Keep it in mind, he is now whipped. Whip it! She is not. This leads us to our next scene where the girls of the play are now going to have to try to convince Beatrice to be in love with Benedict. In this scene, we have Hero, who is recently betrothed to Claudio, as we remember, and also Beatrice's cousin, as well as Ursula and Margaret, who are kind of like their servant, maid, friends, who are all trying to work to get Beatrice to fall for Benedict. Admittedly, their execution is not as girl boss as you would hope. They basically just slander Beatrice the whole time, and they're like, oh my god, she's so mean to him. She's never gonna find a man. She's kind of hopeless, and I hope that Benedict just kind of finds someone else to love because she's never gonna like him back. It's weird behavior. However, this somehow works, and it gets Beatrice to reevaluate her feelings for Benedict and think that maybe she has been a little too cruel. Maybe she has been a little too callous. I don't personally agree with that evaluation.
That's my opinion!
But it seems to work on her, and she realizes that she does have feelings for Benedict again. So now Beatrice has been tricked into reliking Benedict, and Benedict has been re-tricked into liking Beatrice again. So all should be going well, right? Next, we're introduced to one of my other favorite characters in the Shakespeare universe, which is Sheriff Dogberry. He is both the best and the worst cop ever. He's the worst in that he's very inept at his job as a cop, but he's also the best because of that fact. His shenanigans kind of cause everything to be made right in the end, so we let it slide. Basically, Dogberry is commanding the watch the night before Hero and Claudio's wedding. He's just there to, like, hoot and holler and, like, be comedic and remind us that, like, hey, whatever happens next, this is a comedy, so please laugh before we kind of make you cry or cringe or whatever's gonna happen. Dogberry, after making all of his silly little jokes, leaves the watch. After Dogberry leaves, Horatio walks by with a big bag of money, and he's basically bragging about the roleplay session that he just had with Margaret in an attempt to frame Hero, where she was pretending to be Hero, Don John the Bastard paid him to do so, and he's doing this drunken monologue in front of the watch. This whole scene is supposed to parallel Hamlet's opening scene, where there's a more competent group of watchmen who see Hamlet's dad's ghost, and this kind of sets the ball rolling for the tragedy of that play. But because our play is silly, it's there to remind the audience that this is a comedy and that no matter what happens next, everything's going to turn out all right in the end. They do arrest Horatio for a number of things that he just admitted to doing, but we'll get back to that later. We cut to, and Dogberry has just been informed by his watchmen that they've arrested Horatio, and because of this, Dogberry scampers off to tell Hero's dad what happened to hopefully clear up any miscommunication that might happen the day of Hero and Claudio's wedding. However, Dogberry is so annoying and cannot get to the point that Leonardo, Hero's dad, just tells him to leave. And that he approves any kind of arrest that he's made that night. It's the day before his daughter's wedding. Very much giving, you've got to meet on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Instead, you come into my house on the day my daughter's to be married.
He's basically just like, get out of my face. My daughter's getting married tomorrow. Whatever you have to say can wait. So he doesn't hear about the plot against Hero and her sexuality. And Dogberry is too inept to try to convince him in any other way. Our next scene is the day of the wedding! And everything seems like the wedding is gonna go well until Claudio starts making passive-aggressive jabs at Hero at the altar. When that goes over Hero's head because Miss Girl has literally no idea what's going on, Claudio finally just fully drama queens out and again humiliates Hero in front of everyone. Once Claudio finally tells everyone what he has heard has occurred, which is that Hero just slept with Horatio, when Leonardo hears that his daughter might no longer be a virgin from one man that he's known for not very long, allegedly, he immediately throws a fit and starts humiliating Hero as well and calls her a slew of ugly names, and maybe also threatens to kill her. Because Leonardo has just threatened to kill his daughter, and because his daughter might no longer be a virgin, the wedding is of course canceled, and Beatrice and Benedict go off on their own and think, this is the perfect time to finally admit that we like each other again, mutually again. Right now is the perfect time to talk about that. Once they have their little love confessional, Beatrice is like, oh, well, now that we've gotten that over with, and we are boyfriend-girlfriend, I need you to kill your best friend because he just slandered my cousin slash best friend slash homegirl, and I can't let that slide. He's got to gore. Benedict says no initially because that is his best friend, and Beatrice then goes off on a monologue about how she wishes that she were a boy. So she could kill Claudio herself. Her monologue here is also supposed to be paralleled with the monologue that we get in Macbeth by Lady Macbeth, who also wants to kill a man that her husband is too cowardly to kill, but she also can't because killing is for boys and she's a girl. After Beatrice makes this monologue argument to Benedict, he's like, oh, you're right, you're not a boy, that's my job. And he agrees with Beatrice and tells her that next time that he sees Claudio, it's on site. In the meantime, the people who support Hero are trying to work out a way to save her reputation and also low-key her life, because I think her dad was kind of serious about that killing her because she's not a virgin thing. So they decide that faking her death would probably be the best option, which, I mean, sure. This is supposed to also give Romeo and Juliet parallels once again, where Juliet fakes her death and then is supposed to tell Romeo that she's faked her death so they can be together. Here we're doing the opposite, where Hero's faking her death, but purposefully not telling Claudio in an attempt to possibly later one day be together if this all works out. Again, Romeo and Juliet, tragedy, miscommunication trope, Romeo, Juliet, Juliet fakes her death, Juliet becomes real dead. This one, comedy. Hero fake her death. Probably something going to come out of it, or silly or fun. Next, we move on to a scene where Dogberry has returned, and the plot to kind of fake Hero's death is happening in the background. Because his plan to tell Leonardo that the whole Hero shenanigan thing was fake didn't work the first time, Dogberry has now dragged Horatio, who they've arrested, to see everyone at the wedding and to clear Hero's name. So now that he's heard it from another man, and Horatio has said, oh my gosh, yes, that was me and Margaret getting freaky. I just like it when we roleplay. And yes, that is the roleplay name that we specifically choose to have. And yes, my best male friend did pay me to call her that and like kind of do it in front of everyone. Once he finally admits to that, Leonardo's like, oh my god.
Oh my god, my Shayla.
I just threatened to kill my daughter, but I was wrong, and it just took another man telling me that I was wrong instead of like many women who also vouched for Hero. How silly of me. And so he starts to mourn, and it's also around this time that Benedict really lives up to the promise that he just made to Beatrice, because he walks into this scene and he sees Claudio there, and he's like, hey, listen, my girlfriend told me that I have to duel you. And then Claudio's like, well, I don't really want to duel you. I kind of want to be mad that my girlfriend's like a hussy. And then Benedict's like, hey dog, I don't really care. I listen to my girlfriend. And so he does challenge him to a duel. However, nothing really comes out of it. Okay, I kind of lied. Something does come out of it, and it's that Benedict doesn't want to be friends with Claudio anymore because he won't listen to reason and forgive Hero for kind of the shenanigans that have happened.
Don't call me. Don't come by my house. We're done.
Next, we cut to the fake funeral that they are holding for Hero. Claudio is still a little mad about everything that has just happened, but he finally realizes he made a mistake, and it clicks for him once many men have told him that Hero is innocent and that there was a whole plot to frame them and what have you. And so he finally actually starts to kind of mourn at her fake funeral. In his grief at the funeral, Claudio promises Hero's dad / Leonardo that he will marry Hero's twin, her twin, like, cousin, I guess it's described in the play.
You boys twins? Nah, we cousins.
To make it up to Leonardo. Once again, he's not making this up to Hero. He's making this up to Hero's dad for embarrassing him at the wedding, not embarrassing Hero at the wedding. The second wedding, unfortunately, kind of goes off without a hitch. They do a little switcheroo, the boys dress up as different girls, but the actual girl is Hero under the thing, and she's like, oh my gosh, the like not virgin, like defiled version of me has died, like the slandered version of me has died, but I'm still alive. You can marry me. Like we're like same but different. Like we're the same person but like kind of different. And he's like, oh my god, this is perfect. Like I get to marry you and you're a virgin. And everyone is like really happy and like cheering, and yeah, they get married. But we kind of don't like Claudio now, so I'll kind of leave you to think about that. Benedict and Beatrice are kind of just standing there, excited. Benedict is glad that he gets to have his friend again. Beatrice is glad because her cousin gets married to the person that she wants to marry, despite his many flaws. And then everyone's like, oh my god, now that we're just remembering, weren't you guys supposed to get together? Don't you guys have feelings for each other? And both Benedict and Beatrice are suddenly like turn around and are like, what are you talking about? Us like each other? You guys are crazy. This is my biggest op. Like, we're just like cheering and clapping because this is a happy wedding moment. And then both Hero and Claudio were like, happy wedding moment? So I actually just went through your pockets and I found these letters that you guys wrote for each other. Oh. So then they're like, oh, you got us. We actually do like each other again. And they get married at Hero and Claudio's wedding because it's a budget-friendly thing to do.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person.
In these trying times. So finally, to close out our play, we have to tie up some loose ends, of course. People forgive Margaret. For a second, everyone was kind of like, girl, were you in on that? Or do you just like to get a little freaky and do role play? And she was like, whoa, I didn't know it was a crime to be a freak.
Is somebody gonna match my freak?
And so they all kind of let it slide. They also send someone to go after Don John the Bastard. And in some of the adaptations / like actual like print versions of the play I've read, he gets away with it. Like they'll just cut out the part where it says that they caught him. But of course, in some versions, it does say that they did catch him. So this is ripe for adaptation and anyone who doesn't want Don John to be caught at the end. And that's it. That's our play. That's how it ends. Did we have fun? Okay. Okay. Now we're going to get into what makes a Much Ado adaptation Much Ado-ian.
Don't you know the rules? What rules? You don't know the rules?
All the Much Ado adaptations that I've chosen for us today have a few key plot drivers / tenets that they have to stick to.
For instance, number 1.
We have to get some kind of exposition on why Benedict and Beatrice don't mess with each other anymore. In the play, we get that they might have maybe had something in the past, but for these adaptations, we want them to kind of allude to something a little bit more, whether that's the actors delivering their lines in a certain way, or the adaptation giving us a little bit more exposition than we actually get in the play.
Number 2.
We need a gang of bros and a gang of girls who will be driving the plot for both of the main characters throughout the play. So we want at least a gaggle of people who represent the Prince and Leonardo and Don Pedro, and all of the boys in the garden scene. And then we want a Margaret and an Ursula and a Hero who are going to drive things for Beatrice in her garden scene.
And number 3.
We need some kind of a large gathering that happens at the beginning of the play or movie or what have you. So a masquerade ball would be great, but maybe it's a small get-together. Maybe it's a party. I don't know. We need all of the characters to come together at some point early on in the adaptation of the play. Fourth, we need some kind of impending wedding, okay? We need some way to know that this play is going to end when blank happens. So the wedding in this plot is kind of the driver that gets us to the end. Next, we need a villainous plot against the protagonists. So we need something that stops them from getting together and something to kind of malfunction the play, so it takes us a little bit longer to get to the wedding. So this could be Don John the Bastard, who's evil to just be evil, and he's standing in the way of all the protagonists getting together. Or this could be something about like some inner conflict that's causing turmoil. We'll see this in Anyone But You. Then we're gonna need a trope I like to call the dumbest guy ever saves the day. This depends on the adaptation's take of Hero's Ruin, so the mileage kind of varies on the dumb guy and how he saves the day, but it has to be there nonetheless. And then last but not least, everyone has to kith in the end. / everything has to turn out pretty okay for all the characters. We can't have anyone dying. We can't have anyone like in tears, like sobbing because they can never be together. It could be a mystery. Maybe they don't get together, but there's some kind of resolution. But we can't have a Hamlet moment. We can't have a Titus Andronicus moment. This cannot turn into a tragedy. It has to remain some kind of comedy at the end, even if things get a little dramatic.